of surviving in this election.
The man in the fourth row there, you say.
I think I agree with Dr. Fox in that what we saw yesterday was the real Gordon Brown. I think a man who does, shows utter contempt for the voters that he publicly praises and publicly wants to engage with. Door shuts. When we see when Jeremy Vine presents this transcript, and before he hears the tape, he says, "Look, do you apologise if you called this woman a bigot?" And he said, "Well, if I did, I'm sorry." He hears the transcript, and it's all there in front of him. Right up to the last minute, he's unwilling to apologise for this, and I think it shows a Prime Minister completely out of touch.
Janet's reporter.
What it shows is how politics has run now, doesn't it? Gordon Brown's day wasn't Meet the People, it was a carefully staged series of photo opportunities.
Well, it wasn't very carefully staged.
And into this manicured little parade comes somebody who says something that he doesn't agree with, and then we get this insight. Of course, she wasn't a bigot, and what's really interesting about all this is over the last couple of weeks, I've been out talking to voters in marginal constituencies, and they go on about immigration. Now, one of the reasons they're going on about immigration is youth unemployment. And over again, I've had women say to me, "I've got 4 grandkids and none of them can get a job." And the one thing that was skirted tonight, I thought, was the 900,000 young people, an entire generation at the moment, on the bloody scrap heap. So they've gone through school, they've finished school, and what are they doing? They're not in education, they're not in training, they're in nothing. And they're kind of being ignored by the 3 people in the debate tonight.
Are you saying it's immigration that's keeping them out of jobs?
I think in some areas people feel that these kids are not getting jobs because of immigration. I don't agree with it personally. I think it's just a knee-jerk reaction. But that you understand where people are coming from. You understand why they have these concerns, because people in their own families can't get jobs.
Right. You, sir?
I think it's naive of Janet's reporter to say that just the Labour campaign is staged. I think all 3 of the major party campaigns are very staged. And it was a shame today. We've been on campus today, students, 4 of us here, and not a single one of the party leaders or the only person of all, surprisingly, was Peter Mandelson, who actually bothered to come and speak to students who are, voters. There's 28,000 students at the University of Birmingham, and none of the parties got out there and actually spoke to real students and real voters.
I'm sorry, I'm not saying it's Labour. I'm saying that for the 3 main leaders, how they are conducting their campaigns is all to do with their coverage in the press and the media the next day. So please don't think I'm just picking on Labour.
And the woman there in the second row.
Liam, you're saying that it's not wrong to ask questions about immigration. So why is it that when your leader is asked questions about immigration, he directly ignores them?
In 2 of the last 3 debates, David Cameron said very explicitly we need to have a cap on the number of people coming into the country. He also said we need to have restrictions on student visas, and that we need to have a proper border police, because, and the reason that there is such public anxiety is that in 1997, 48,000 people came into this country net. Last year, 167,000 people came into this country. And
how many of them were from the European Union whose immigration cannot be prevented by you or any other government?
Well, according to the Office of National Statistics, only a third of those immigrants came from the European Union.
Okay. Vince Cable, let's just go back to the question.
Let's go back to the original question.
Yes.
The original question, I think, was is it bigotry to ask? And of course it isn't. And people are concerned, and they're rightly concerned, and they want to see effective control. It's been chaotic. I think we're all agreed about that. Where I very much agree with the lady in the second row, when she said that she's not getting an honest answer to the question about what caps actually mean. Yeah. I mean, not only are we not getting a number, but I mean, Dr. Fox is rather giving the impression that the Conservatives would control the level of immigration. They're not even proposing to do that. They acknowledge that there are large areas of immigration that they cannot and will not control. Dependents, overseas students is a different category. There are people from within the European Union. All they're talking about is putting a cap on one category, which is work permits.
And what do you say about all those other categories yourselves as Liberal Democrats? That it should just go on unrestricted?
Well, we belong to the European Union, and although there is a good case for restricting immigration from new entrants, You know, as long as we're members of the European Union and don't leave it,
you want to have an amnesty.
There is freedom. Well, no, I'll come on to the amnesty in a minute. There is freedom of movement within the European Union. And as many British people go out into other parts of Europe as come in here. And let's just acknowledge the reality.
David Cameron accused the Liberal Democrats tonight of being prepared to give an amnesty, and I wrote the figures down at the time, to 600,000 people who were here illegally.
Well,
and wait a moment.
Sorry.
And that would also allow spouses for them to come in, making 1,200,000 people. That was what the Conservatives said.
This figure is plucked out of the air. Nobody knows where it comes from.
What's the right figure, then?
There is no right figure. The whole problem is there has been no effective control. The Conservatives abolished the system of checking out. So nobody knows how many people who were legally allowed in then left. We have absolutely no idea.
So what we do know
is that there are large numbers of people living here who are living here illegally. Some of them involved in criminal activity, some of them have made technical breaches of the law. Let me just finish. Let me finish. Some people, including Boris Johnson, the Conservative Mayor of London, argue for an amnesty. We don't argue for an amnesty. We argue for a conditional approval, what we call earned citizenship.
Hang on a moment, that is the amnesty.
That is an amnesty.
It is highly conditional. People have got to live here for 10 years.
And how many
They've
will be
got to
affected by
prove that they have not committed criminal offences. They've got to speak English.
If you don't know where they are, how do you know if they lived here 10 years, 5 years, 4 years, 3 years?
You invite them to... You invite them to come forward and they produce proof of their own residency. It's a very straightforward idea. I mean, look, the whole idea that you can just sweep this under the carpet, just allow significant numbers of people to continue to live here, pretending that they don't live here, is absolutely absurd and escapism. We want them brought within the law, paying taxes like everybody else.
And their dependents will be allowed to come to Britain. So we don't know how many people this is actually going to apply to. Some of them may be criminals, but they're going to be allowed to bring the spouses anyway. And every amnesty that's been tried in any other European country has actually resulted in more people coming because they think if you can put it off long enough, you'll be allowed to stay.
So
this is a crazy immigration policy.
You just want to ignore the problem.
You, sir, and then I come to you. Yes.
I'm sorry, Dr. Fox. Didn't David Cameron in the debate say there were 600,000 of those people?
Well, there are a number of estimates. We've been asking the Liberal Democrats to give us the number. We don't think they should. It's their amnesty. It's their number that they should be telling us.
It's your figures.
Well, there are estimates of 600. There are estimates of 700,000. But if we're going to have people in the United Kingdom who have no legal right to be here, and then we're going to have their spouses and dependents come in, when we already have pressure on public services, when we already have pressure on housing, we need at least to be told exactly what the Liberal Democrats' policy is going to mean.
Brief point from you, and then we must go on.
Is it realistic to put a cap on immigration? And if so, what would that cap be?
Liam Fox,
well, other countries manage to put a cap. The United States has a restriction on its number of people coming into the country.
Okay.
And what we'd like to see it back to the levels it was of tens of thousands, not hundreds of thousands, because that is simply too fast. The point I made earlier.
The man
it is
up
too
there
quick
in the
to allow
third row from the
assimilation.
back. You, sir, yes.